So we're going to talk for a little while now. I'm going to tell you how the movie came about and a little bit about me. And then we'll show the movie, and I'll say something about that. And then we'll do a Q&A afterwards. You can ask me about crop circles or whatever you want to ask me about. As Jennifer mentioned in my introduction, when I went to college, I was Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude. That means you get 100 on everything. And I was the president of a lot of different clubs. And they were worried about me when I went to high school. When I graduated, they were worried because I did so many things well that they were afraid I would never figure out what to do with my life. I just was so interested in everything. So I'm kind of like a generalist, you know, absorbing everything, but with this kind of burning passion to be good and to do good. And here we are in this world, and what was there to do good at? Well, it became obvious to me that the world was not thinking right, and that we all were thinking in very narrow perspectives about what the reality of life was. So that it interested me a lot to change the world and bring everybody into a greater awareness. That became something that I could do that could matter and that could be important. I started to have events in my house, kind of like a salon, where interesting people would hold court. It was a time when there was a lot of new kind of information coming out, and a teacher would come along, you know, somebody with some kind of method for self-awareness, and I would like what they did, and then I'd kind of take them in hand and send them out into the world and support them, give them, you know, business and careers and what have you. But at those times, I was doing all these different kinds of things to wake people up, you know, to consciousness, to awareness, to the bigger world that, you know, we were learning about. And then the crop circles came along, just as another subject matter. I had a friend whose son was stationed in the military in England, and on his leave, on the weekends, he would go out and take pictures that I saw. And they were pictures of crop circles, which at the time in England, they were identifying as landing pads for UFOs. Oh, that's interesting. If that's real, it would change the world. It would open everybody's mind to things way beyond what we were accepting as ordinary reality. So that became one of the subject matters that I did programs about. Well, that was starting in the late 80s. And in the late 80s, crop circles were fascinating to everybody. All over the world, they were making news. They were focused in England. The concentration was in England, but reporters would come and news would go out, and all over the world, people were fascinated. What were these things? What was going on? Who was making them? How did they get there? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, well, I had to go to England and see for myself what was going on. So my first trip to England was in 1993, and well, I just got hooked. You just stand there and you go, whoa, whoa, where did this come from? Who could have done this? It's just unbelievable. And you're there, and you know you're not there like you're there at the pyramids, which I have not been to, but I'm sure is also quite awesome. But they're old. They've been there a long time. This just got here last night, you know. Who put this here? How'd this get here? So, 1996, I came back home, and I made a vow. And I said, you know, if my life is going to add up to anything that really matters, something that I can do that most people couldn't do because they don't know what I know, I'm going to tell the world about crop circles. That's going to be my big deal. Well, how do you tell the world about anything? You make a movie. So in 1996, I started looking for a filmmaker. You know, you can't just go up to some filmmaker and say, I want to hire you to make a movie about crop circles. Huh? You have to find somebody who's interested. And it so happened that somebody who had an Academy Award nomination hooked up with one of the crop circle researchers, was his girlfriend. And in 2000, she brought him over to England, and he wanted to make a movie about crop circles. And we spent a year raising money, I raised the money, making the plan, whatever. And in 2001, we went to England for 10 weeks for a shoot. And I ran the shoot. I knew much more about the subject matter than he did. I knew who was interesting. I knew where to send them. I knew, what was worth photographing. And we made this movie. In fact, a lot of the people who are central to the crop circle world today are there because they saw that movie and they got turned on. But it wasn't the movie I wanted. I wanted a movie where people who had given up their lives for this, as people have, would express their excitement and enthusiasm. Why did they leave? Why did the professor of architecture at USC stop being a professor of architecture and start being a geometer for crop circles? So when that movie came out, which was in 2002, I had been on the shoot. With the equipment we have these days, we could all make movies. And so in 2003, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I said, I'm going to make a movie. So 6 years later, and lots of my resources, and we did it with real production values. I mean, I had Hollywood professionals ending up working on this movie, so it's a regular movie. And the movie has done very well. When you make movies now, again, just like the studios are not the only place that can make movies, you have many choices about how to get your movie seen. The traditional way, you play the festival circuit. And I thought, I want this movie seen. I want it seen quickly. I don't want to spend a year, and I didn't want to have to raise the money to do that expensive campaign. But I had an alternative, because the only way you can really be successful on the internet, you need a niche audience. You need people on the internet who will buy your movie and get excited about your movie and spread the word about your movie. The UFO audience, which thank goodness loves the crop circles. I didn't know anything about UFOs when I made this movie. I've learned now because they love crop circles, so I get invited to all these UFO, and they screen my movie at their conferences and what have you, and they gave me this award. You should see this award. It looks like an Oscar, only it's an alien. I mean, it's really very cute. He's got a little camera on his shoulder, and it's like a tall gray, Very, very cute, right? This is the second largest niche on the internet. So this became a market for me. I mean, you can stick your movie on the internet and nobody's going to buy it. And here we have all this social networking. It's for us to be friends, right? It's to sell product also. But we've done all these kind of things, and the movie has been hugely successful. Because the first way you do it, when you have your niche audiences, you sell retail. You keep the money. Once you go to all the distributors who get it into the big markets that isn't your website, you're getting a little bit of the money. And the idea being that you sell many more, vast distribution, except I had a vast audience already. So we started out retail, because then I amassed enough money that I can actually take this out to other markets. Now, my film is going to New York, April 22nd through April 28th. It's a big deal. It's going to play at the Quad Cinema, which is a fabulous art house. They run all Academy Award nominated films. And we're going to get reviewed by the New York Times, which is the first ever for a film about crop circles. I'm just taking the word of the authorities that the best thing that can happen to an independent film is that it gets reviewed by the New York Times, up or down. What else do I need to tell you? We've got to change the essential worldview that we have, where spirituality perhaps becomes equated with materialism, where the feminine becomes equated with the masculine. We have to get back in balance, or else we really are just going to fall apart. And we all know that. We all know that we're in big trouble. So my nonprofit owns the movie. If the movie makes $1 million, I can't have it. It's going to have to go back out because my nonprofit is about doing good for the world. Okay, movie time.